We are back, everyone. Sorry for not having any long form videos. I was on the West Coast, didn't have a studio, didn't have mics, an absolute crapshoot. But now I'm back in Chicago, and welcome back, Mazarski Memos number 23 long form. Today, we're just going to be talking about the New York football teams and their head coaching and general manager situations. The Jets and Giants both had unsuccessful seasons. The Giants went 3 and 14, the Jets 5 and 12. Obviously, both fell short. The Giants decided to keep head coach Brian Dable and general manager Joe Shane. They're both coming back for season number 4. The Jets obviously fired Robert Saleh after week 5 of the NFL season and fired Joe Douglas after week 11. They are looking at everyone. It's been reported that they're going to be diligent in their head coaching search. So let's talk about them both, starting with the gang green. If you had to name the biggest disappointment of this NFL season, look no further than the New York Jets. Had their highest expectations in the past decade and a half. They have the longest playoff drought in the four major professional sports at 14. The second closest team is the Carolina Panthers at 7. That's bad. The New York Jets are clearly a problem. They fired Robert Saleh after week 5, losing to the Minnesota Vikings 23-17 in London. Those losses didn't look that bad at the end of the season, by the way. I'm about to talk about that. They fired general manager Joe Douglas. Reports from The Athletic came out that they didn't have a chance, that Joe Douglas didn't have a chance. And now the biggest report, first the Jets brought out an outside company on 33 to help with the head coach and general manager search. And the Jets are being diligent. They're going to leave no stone unturned in this search. And look at right now, when I'm recording this, the Jets have interviewed or requested to interview 14 people. Aaron Glenn, Matt Nagy, Brian Flores, Josh McCown, Arthur Smith, Mike Vrabel, Ron Rivera, Rex Ryan, Brian Greasy, Vance Joseph, Bobby Slowick, Joe Brady, Jeff Ulbrich, Darren Reese. Me saying those names means nothing if the New York Jets do not pick the right guy, because being diligent does not mean interviewing everyone. Look, do I trust Woody Johnson? No. Should any Jets fan trust Woody Johnson right now? Absolutely not, especially with the reports saying he wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers, with them firing Robert Saleh probably prematurely, with Joe Douglas apparently not having that much authority when he was the general manager of the New York Jets. There are a lot of candidates, and the Jets need to be diligent with this, and I think that's why they brought in an outside company. This cannot be only Woody Johnson's decision. He needs some sort of advisors and stuff. The other thing with this Jets head coaching job right now is, compared to some of the other jobs in the league, the Jets are not that desirable. The last time the Jets had a head coaching opening after the 2020 season, the job was probably top 3 out of the open ones because they had the number 2 pick. They had their selection of the batch with quarterback besides Trevor Lawrence. Robert Saleh got hired. Joe Douglas went with Zach Wilson. The Jets are not as desirable of a head coaching job compared to the other openings right now. The Bears have a head coach opening. They have Caleb Williams. The Patriots have Drake May. The Las Vegas Raiders just fired Antonio Pierce. They have a higher pick. The Jets are not getting Ben Johnson. They wouldn't even do an interview with him because apparently he has no interest. And they're not going to get Mike Vrabel. I do think Mike Vrabel is using the Jets as leverage. I do think he's going to go back to the Patriots. Drake May is a better situation. The Jets are going to have a quarterback change probably. Woody Johnson and Aaron Rodgers' relationship is beyond repair according to every single report. The quarterback position is the most important in football. It might be the most important in all 4 sports. They don't have that right now, and they're going to have to be creative because the Jets are going to go with a bridge quarterback. If I had my money right now, it would be Tyrod Taylor. I think every single one of these coaches brings something different to the table. You have coaches that made the playoffs, like Matt Nagy with the Bears, Brian Flores, obviously Rex Ryan, Ron Rivera's made it to the Super Bowl before. And you have interims like Jeff Ulbrich, who was the Jets this year, Darren Reese, who led the Saints to like 3 wins. You have other guys that have been head coaches, Vance Joseph. And then you have some really like creative offensive minds like Bobby Slowick and Josh McCown. The Jets are clearly going so many directions with this. But regardless of who the next head coach of the New York Jets is, they have to set a culture. The New York Jets have a culture problem. That's why they have the longest playoff drought in sports. That's why they haven't been to the playoffs since Rex Ryan. It's why they haven't had a winning season since 2015, and they've had one winning season since I was in 3rd grade. I'm 22 years old now. The New York Jets are one of the worst cultured teams in football, and that's not going to change unless it starts with the head coach and general manager. It's the head of the snake. A snake cannot move without its head. That's why I don't mind Rex Ryan, because look, the Jets are not smarter than every NFL team because they're interviewing Rex Ryan and nobody else is. But He's going to set a damn culture, and that's for sure. He said it on the national media, and he wants to come back because that was the last time the Jets made the playoffs. Rex Ryan has changed, but like a lot. He lost a lot of fat, obviously, but he will set a culture. Is this saying the New York Jets should go for Rex Ryan? No, but what they need from a head coach is someone that has a culture. Because the New York Jets, whether it was Robert Saleh or Jeff Ulbrich this season, they were not in positions to win football games this year. Look at the games they started slow. Season opener against the 49ers, the defense didn't show up. Titans, Broncos, Vikings, both Buffalo games. Arizona when the Cardinals scored 3 straight touchdown drives to open up the game. The Colts, the Texans. I could go on and on and on. How many complete games did the New York Jets play this year? Maybe one week 3 against the Patriots, who now have a head coach in Gerard Mayo that's looking for a new job, and a quarterback in Jacoby Brissett who was just a bridge. The Jets did not play complete games this year. And look, a lot of that responsibility is the players. I get that. But the coaches did not put the Jets in positions to win the game over and over and over again. And so with the new head coach, whether it's a guy with their first job, like a McCown or a Slowick or a Greasy, or it's an experienced coach like Ron Rivera or Flores or Nagy, look, they need to put the Jets in position to win right now. And regardless of who this Jets quarterback is, Aaron Rodgers or not, the coach has to stick to his word. My biggest problem with Jeff Ulbrich this season was when he went up to the press in his first ever press conference as the head coach of the New York Jets and said, "We are going to be a run-heavy team." If I pulled up the NFL stats right now, the Jets had the least carries in the NFL this year. Breece Hall had one 100-plus yard game. He was 4th in the NFL in scrimmage yards. He touched the ball more than 15 times in a game, twice. That is not acceptable when you have someone that good. Then you have Garrett Wilson, who was constantly praised over and over by Ulbrich in his press conferences, and he was clearly wide receiver 2 to Devontae Adams. He was 3rd in the league in targets. A lot of those came before Devontae came. Devontae was clearly number 1 for Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson set career highs. Imagine what he could be when he gets the full wide receiver target share. Then Jeff Ulbrich going that he could handle defensive responsibilities while also being head coach. The Jets defense was number 1 on PFF before Robert Saleh got fired. They were in the 20s after. He was spread too thin. Why did he have to do them to himself? DJ Reed said he's a grown man. Who cares? It's the NFL. There's so many responsibilities. The head coach needs to stick to his word, and they need to put the team in position to win football games. And I think Robert Saleh, by the way, did this better than Jeff Ulbrich. Is this saying Robert Saleh should have stayed? No. But he definitely could have stayed for longer in the season, and the Jets would have been a more competitive team. They lost to 3 teams this season under Robert Saleh. The NFC champions coming off a Super Bowl loss when they were healthy, and 2 playoff teams in the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings, who are a Super Bowl contender. I don't care that they lost to the Detroit Lions, and the 10-7 Denver Broncos. Looking back, those losses aren't bad. That's Woody Johnson's fault. I don't know why he fired him. And so with the New York Jets, if I had to pick right now, I'd probably go with Aaron Glenn. They need a guy who's going to set the culture, stick to his word, and put this team in a position to break the longest playoff drought in sports. And then we get to the other New York football team, the Giants, who are the one team since 2012 to have less wins than the Jets, which is just a crazy stat because the Jets are such a low bar. The Giants were lower. On Monday, they shocked a lot of the NFL world by saying that they are retaining head coach Brian Daboll and general manager Joe Schoen. They're coming back for season number 4. There are some positives with this, right? Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, in their first year with the New York Giants, they won a playoff game. They went 9-7-1. They were 3rd in the NFC East, and they beat the Minnesota Vikings, who only lost 3 games that entire season in the wild card round. They ended up losing to the Eagles, who made the Super Bowl in round 2. It was a good season. Since then, though, the Giants went 6-11 in 2023 and 3-14 in 2024. The biggest concern with the Giants right now is their quarterback, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I don't think anybody sees why the New York Giants did this. It does not make a lot of sense with the pool you have out there, and the New York Giants are going backwards. There are a lot of negatives with this. Sure, the New York Giants were 9-7-1 and they won a playoff game, but take 2022 with a grain of salt. Their quarterback's no longer on the roster. Daniel Jones had a great season. He's now on the Minnesota Vikings, and the Giants are paying him dead cat money. His play was not sustainable. Giants are looking for a quarterback. The Vikings were also universally thought as a fraudulent team. And yeah, they almost lost that game. And they got to 6-1, and then they lost 6 out of their final 8 games. That's not good enough. And since then, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen have had the worst record in the NFL. And then over and over again, you see John Mara talking to reporters on Monday saying, I'm running out of patience. The Giants need to improve fast. The New York Post today is saying blind faith. Brian Dable and Joe Shane are not the solution for the New York Giants. They are getting worse, not better. And they're going to keep getting worse. Look at the NFC East. They are far clearly the fourth best team. The Washington Commanders made the playoffs for the first time. Jaden Daniels isn't going anywhere. The Philadelphia Eagles, they're the Philadelphia Eagles. They make the playoffs every year. The Dallas Cowboys are not going to have a bad year like this again. Dak Prescott's going to be healthy. And so when the New York Giants come in fourth place in the NFC East next year, and then you fire Dable and Shane, where are you going to go? Because then you have a new quarterback and they're going to have to adjust to a new coach. It's just an over cycle, and the Giants are going to be at the bottom. That's why I don't understand why they kept him. And speaking of the quarterback, the Giants do not have the pick of the litter, and that's because they beat the Colts in week 17. Cam Ward's going number one, Shador Sanders is going number two, or vice versa. The Giants are going to get creative. Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, someone else, they're going to have to figure it out. Not everything's set off for the Giants. They have Malik Neighbors set the franchise record in receptions. Tyrone Tracy had 1,000 all-purpose yards. They're both really good. They have pieces. The quarterback obviously matters, but Brian Dable and Joe Shane, who have won 9 combined games over the past 2 years, that is not the solution for them in a very good division and a very good conference. The NFC has 7 Super Bowl contenders this year. I fully believe that. And so next year I could be doing the same exact thing. Dable and Shane will be gone, and I'll say, I told you so. Because the Giants are not in the position to win, and that's not going to change over 1 year. Thank you guys so much for listening to Mazarski Memos episode 23. I'll have episode 24 coming out tomorrow, talking about the college football playoff format and previewing the 2 semifinals games. If you like what you saw, please follow and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and TikTok.